start today's session with the very basic. What is the role of Excel, or why do we use Excel? And Excel is used for finding business insights. So for finding business insights, first of all, what we are doing, we are trying to save the data in workbooks. So what is a workbook? As soon as you click on Excel icon, the very first thing that you will see is a workbook. So let's say that we want to start with the empty workbook, a blank workbook. So once you click on Excel in the home tab, you see the blank workbook. We click here. So this is called a workbook. Sometimes we also say, file, but essentially in Excel, it is called a workbook. Now, where do you put the data? We put the data in sheets. We organize the data in sheets. So if you see over here, by default, there is already one sheet that is there in a workbook. By default, one workbook has one sheet in it. Now, it may be that we are organizing the data as per the information that it is telling us. For example, I may have customers' information, so I want to keep it in one sheet. Then I may have the products that I'm selling in another sheet. Then I may have another data or another set of table which has sales data, and I want to put it in another sheet. So first and foremost, what we need to learn is how we're going to insert the sheets and put all the data together. Okay, so sheet 1 is already there. In order to increase the number of sheets, I am going to click on this plus sign. Like, see, when I'm hovering on top of it, it also shows new sheet at the bottom. So once I click on it, it has created a new sheet, sheet 2. When I click on it again, now it has sheet 3, and I can keep on adding as per my requirement. Now, if I receive a workbook which has, let's say, 5 or 10 worksheets in it, it might become very confusing for me to remember or to understand as a user that which data is kept in which worksheet. So I would always say that once you're keeping the data, when you're storing the data in Excel, always have a habit of giving some meaningful name to your worksheets. So how do you give a name to a worksheet? Let's say I want to give, or I want to change the name of sheet 1. So you double click. As soon as you double click, it selects the entire text, and then you can type in, let's say we said we want customer info over here. And I'm going to click on sheet 2. This is my product info. And I want to click on sheet 3, and this is my sales info. So I can create the sheets and I can rename the sheets. The benefit of renaming the sheets is what? I get to know what type of data, or if I'm looking for a data, it makes it easier for us. Now, once I have got my sheets and I have named the sheets, I would also like to save this workbook, because otherwise what happens that when you are doing some works and I accidentally close this particular workbook, all my work would be gone. So how do you save a workbook? In order to save a workbook, we can go to File. Under File, there is a Save and there is a Save As. Can anybody tell me what's the difference between the two? What's the difference between a save and a save as? So let's say you have a new workbook and you want to save the file. So you can click on simply save. And once you click on save, what you have to give is you have to choose the folder in which you want to save. You want to choose the name of the file, which you want to, easy to understand what data is kept in it. You want to choose the name of a file, and you want to choose the extension of the file. Okay, so for example, this is a new workbook. So if I simply go to File and I click on Save, automatically it takes me over here. So if I wanted to save in any of the existing folders, I could do over here. Or once you click on Browse, you see it opens this entire window. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the folder for where I've kept all the data for Optum. And session 2, working with workbook. Okay, so I have what I did. I chose the folder in which I want to save the file. I gave the name to my workbook, right? And I also told what is a save type. So we are working with a normal Excel workbook. So the save is Excel workbook. And now I click on the word save. So I have saved my workbook. Whatever name I give to the workbook, you will see it appears on the very top. So for example, now that my file is saved, if I press save, it is not going to give me any option of putting it somewhere else. So just to answer that question, let's say if this was the file, I've opened a new file and I wanted to save and I wanted to put in a folder. Let's say I'm going to go back and instead of making my work confusing, good idea would be to create a folder for batch 1 and batch 2. So you see on the top, something called new folder over here. You can click over here, create a folder, let's say batch 2. And once you click on inside it, now you can save the file in batch 2. When you are clicking on browse over here, you can always click it on your desktop, create a folder on the desktop or save it as a file over here. Any location on your PC. All right. So like you saw, when it's a new workbook and I clicked on save, I got all these options. But now the file is already saved. So now if I click on save, you will see it will not give me any of those options anymore. So what does it do? Whatever new additions you have done, it keeps saving in the same folder under the same file name. All right. So this is your save. And the shortcut for saving is Control plus S. So let's say you're working and in between, obviously it's not that convenient to go to file and look for save and press it. So you can simply press Control S on your keyboard and it saves the file. Okay. So now what's the work of save as? So if like, a lot of time, if I tell you what when I was working as a civil engineer, I had to make a lot of reports and pretty much, the reports formatting was the same, only few numbers changed. And what we used to do instead of creating a fresh document all the time, if I wanted to create a copy of the existing workbook, or if I wanted to save this workbook with a different name in a different folder, then we use a save as. So save as, it creates a copy of the file in different folder location and under different name. It will not allow you to save as with the same name as the current workbook in the same location. However, I can do a save as. Let's say if I now want to put in that folder. So now it is again going to give me an option. So I can go to batch 2, the folder that I created. So it's in Eeshani, companies, Optum, batch 2. This is the name of the workbook and this is the extension of the workbook. Click OK. And now the file has been saved. Now, does that mean the previous file is gone? Now I've got 2 files. So I also have session 2 working with workbook batch 2 in the Optum folder. And now I have created a copy of the same inside Optum folder, batch 2 folder, and now the file exists. So typically save as is done in order to create a copy of the existing workbook. And then if you want to make modifications in terms of its name or the folder location, or in terms of the content of the file. Okay. Now, next thing, before, I make you work with the columns and the rows, let's try to bring some data in this empty workbook. So how are we going to copy data from one workbook? When I say data, I mean table. So how are you going to copy a table from one workbook or a worksheet to another? So what is the very first step that I have to do before I can go ahead and copy it? If I want a table, let's say if I go back to the first session, and if you remember, I had given you this table of smoker and health insurance. Over here, I have this nice table. So I want to copy this table and bring it to the new workbook to work on this data set. So what will be my very first step that I need to do? Get the workbook open and then I want to select my data. So how do you select the data? How do you select the entire table, or how do you select the entire sheet? So to select entire sheet, what do we do? We are going to go to our sheet over here, right? So over here, between column A, where is column A? This is column A, and row 1. You see this little corner over here with the gray triangle? So once you click in this area, you will see that what it does, it selects all the columns and all the rows. So what have we essentially selected? We have selected the entire sheet. So if there are 10 tables inside it, or 1 table or 2 tables, whatever number of tables, wherever in the sheet, everything gets selected. So this is the most simplest way of selecting the entire sheet. So if I want to select the entire sheet, where I have to go, click on the gray triangle in the corner of column A and row 1. So that's a way of selecting the entire sheet. Now, if I want to select the table, then what should I do? If I wanted to select the table, what's my shortcut? How do I select the table? So Control A.
A. Okay.
Right? You can use Control A, or you can also use Control and Shift and 8. Either one of them. So if I want to only select this particular table, I press Control A. So that selects. Now, how does it select? What is the reason why it is only selecting to this part? So if you're anywhere in your table, anywhere, and you really don't have to be on the top or any specific place, anywhere in the table, when you press Control A, automatically it decides the extent of the table. And the way it does is by looking for completely empty columns. So column H is completely empty, or completely empty rows. So over here, it's completely empty. Now, as soon as you put a single value, even if one value is kept over here, I typed in A. Now, if I press Control A, now you see it has extended to column H also. And column H is not even populated. I've just put only one single value. But that has shown a continuity or a connection among the columns, and hence it got selected. So the way the Control A works is it looks for completely empty columns and completely empty rows, and that's how it understands the extent of the table. So as a habit, make sure that we are not selecting something which is incorrect or which is not a part of the table. Have a habit of not putting anything next to your tables. Okay, any, like notes we like to write, all those things should be avoided. Try to leave a column, write it, or try to leave a row and then you write it. And like what Rick was saying was, if I'm not in my table, if I've not selected any value in my table, and then you press Control A, since there's no extent, everything is empty around it, it goes ahead and selects the entire sheet. Okay. Now, once I have selected the table, we discuss this thing. So this is one way of selecting a table. There is one more way of selecting a table, and that's by using our shortcut keys of Control Shift down arrow. And what this Control Shift down arrow, how does this work? This will go till the non-empty cell, meaning till the cells are filled from the beginning or from where you're starting. It will go and select all the cells till the last non-empty cell, and then stop right before that, before the empty cell. So I can use Control Shift down arrow key one time, and right arrow key. Again, what this does, it selects my entire table. The only problem in this method is that if there are certain values which are missing in my table, then it might not pick my data properly. Okay, let's say I've deleted some of the values. These values were not available in my table. So if I now press Control Shift down arrow, right arrow, I get the tiny bit and not the entire table. Or if I press right arrow and down arrow, again, the same issue, I'm not going to get the entire table because of the empty cells. So the fastest way to get or select our table is basically the ones that we discussed. Use a Control A or use Control Shift A. Okay, so I'm just going to put another way, and that is Control plus Shift plus down arrow plus right arrow. And so once selected, we are going to go ahead and then do a copy on this data set. And how will you copy? So what is the shortcut for copying? It's Control plus C. And once you copy something, how do you know, or how does it look like? And what portion has been copied? How do we get to know that? So once I've selected this entire table, and when I press Control C, I hope all of you can see this small dotted running lines around this area. And if I go to the very bottom, I'll again see the same similar thing at the bottom also. So where you see these running lines around it may be one cell, it can be more than one cell. It means that's the area, that's a set of cells that Excel has selected and copied. Now, once they are copied, we want to paste them. So how do we paste them? We will go to the worksheet or the workbook sheet, the session 2 that I created. I will go and put it in customer info. Select a cell where you want to paste it and press Control V. Okay, so what I did, I went to the workbook that I had sent you initially, selected the table by using the shortcut, copied it by using the shortcut Control C. Then I went back to the new workbook. In the customer info sheet that we created, I have pasted this information over here. Okay, let's come back to this workbook that we've created today. So now that I have this data over here, couple of things that we can do with the tables that we have in our sheets. First of all, let's understand the structure of a sheet that we have. So in this, you will see on the top, you have alphabets like A, B, C, D. And what these alphabets are, the alphabets are depicting the column. And on the left side, we see the numbers 1, 2, 3, and these are depicting the row numbers. Okay, so in your sheet, you have a combination of a column with a row to create what we call as a cell. So the smallest entity in Excel is actually a cell, which comprises of the column and the row. Okay, so when anybody says, okay, go to cell A1 or let's put a formula in cell A10, it's actually a combination of row and column that you are supposed to look for. Now, if I wanted to, let's say I missed out some information in this table and I wanted to insert a new row in this table, or there's a duplicate in this table and I want to delete a row. So how do we do these simple processes of inserting a row and deleting a row? So if I want to insert row or delete a row, what we need to do is select the row number. Now, once you click on this number over here, since I told you 1 to 10, these are all rows. So once you click on 7, so what it has done, it has selected the entire row of row 7, not just limited to your table, but the full row of entire Excel sheet has been selected. Once this is done, we can right click and you will see we have option of insert. So if I click over here, I've inserted a new row. And the same process for deleting, I'll select the row first by simply clicking over here. I'll right click and I'll delete the row. Okay, so very simple process of inserting and deleting the row. So while I am writing these things over here, we can also try it. All right. Same thing we can do for a column also. So everywhere we have written row, I'll say select a column. Like A, B, C, these are the columns. And this selects the entire column. Right click, click on insert, and a column gets inserted. All right. So what I said was, let's try to implement this set of steps that we were talking about. So let's select a row 7 or any row which is in your, like when you copy paste it, after the 3 rows of data of female, male, and male, select a row, right click, and insert a row. And once you've inserted the row, try to fill it with any information that matches the data over here. And if I want to delete a row, same process. I'm going to select the row by clicking on these numbers over here. That helps me to delete the entire row. And then we'll also talk about if I wanted to delete not the entire row, because I may have some data on the right hand side. So how do I delete specific in this data set? So once we select the row and right click on it, I'll get an option of delete. So once you click on delete, what it is deleting, it's not only deleting the row of your table, but it has actually deleted the entire row number 7. Okay, so same process that is for insert, we can have it for delete also. So what I'm doing over here is select the row number and select the entire, right click and delete rather than insert. Okay, now let's say if we had some data on the right hand side, and what we have done right now, that if I select the number and I delete, or if I select an alphabet and if I delete, it kind of deletes my entire column. But I want to only delete what is in my table. So how do you do that? Or how should we do that? Instead of selecting the entire row, we will be selecting the row specific to your table. And how will you select only this row? Or even if you select over here, this is going to select only one, delete only one cell. So I need to select this entire row. So how do you select the entire row? Remember, we had done this shortcut of selecting in the table. We said we can have control shift down arrow key, which selects my entire column, and then I do a right arrow. So I can do a control shift right arrow key. So that helps me to select my entire row over here. And now if you do a right click, and when you click on delete, it is not going to immediately delete the entire row, but it is asking how should we delete it. Should we shift the cells to the left? Should we shift it up? Do you want the entire row to be deleted? Do you want the entire column to be deleted? So which one do you think is the best option over here? Shift the cells up. What it is going to do, it's just going to move the cells in the next row up over here. So if I click over here and click, it went up. Okay, so if I want to delete the entire row, the process is different. And if I want to delete a row in only my table, then there's a different process. And there's a delete on your keyboard also. What does that delete do? We say that it clears the content. So it's not deleting your cells, it's just clearing the content of your cell. All right. So 3 different things that we are looking at. If I want to delete the entire row and column, if I want to, let's say, delete row of table, then what do we do? Or if I want to insert in my table and not the entire row, then how do we work with it? We are going to select the row. And how we're going to select it? Control and shift. Right arrow. Okay. Control shift right arrow. And then we are going to right click. Right click, then what do? We are going to click on delete. let's go to open the window for it, and we will just say shift cells up. So we can easily delete the row, and delete on keyboard clears the content of the cell, however does not delete it. It's not going to delete the cells, it's just going to clear the content. What I mean is, I've selected this row, I'm pressing delete from my keyboard. All it did is remove the data that was there or cleared the cell, but the cells are still there. It's not deleted the cell. So there are two different deletes we are talking about. So any step that we are taking in Excel, and let's say we want to undo that step, we use the Control Z key. Okay, so if you press, let's say, for example, I went ahead and deleted this and said I want to shift, and I said I want to delete the entire row. But then I realized I had some information on the right side, and that was not the best option. So I can simply press Control Z on my keyboard, and it undoes the step that I've taken. So for anything, you have Control Z. In fact, on the top over here, you see these arrows. Over here, you can, undo and redo. We can put it on there over here. So if you click on undo, this button is there. When you click on undo and you keep clicking, it keeps on taking you back and back and back. So there are still a few number of steps, and good number of steps. You see over here, I can go ahead and undo any of these actions that I had taken. But when it's going to undo, it's not that I can undo one specific actions in it. It is actually, you see how it is doing a green area or creating a green area. So all of it will be undone. And if I wanted to, let's say all my notes are gone, so I wanted to redo it. So again, I can select this redo, and this area over here in Excel is called a quick access toolbar, QAT. So I can keep that in the quick access toolbar, and once I click over here, it helps me to understand what I can redo. So this was the only thing I could redo, so that's done. So if it's only one step, you can press Control Z. But if you want to undo a series of steps, then I would say let's use the quick access toolbar and use undo arrow. Okay, where is the quick access toolbar? On the very top. Let me take a quick snippet of it and put it in the notes itself. All right, so over here is this is called a quick access toolbar, and this is my undo key over here. Over here. All right. So that's how we can undo and redo our work. A lot of steps can be taken care of at one shot. And as in when you're working, like I don't know how many of you are seeing a slight blink on my worksheet. What I'm doing is, as in when I'm writing something, finishing off some section, I am pressing Control S again and again in order to save my data, because sometimes it may happen that computer is hanged, nothing is happening, or it's slow down and I want to shut my workbook. So if I've not saved my workbooks, it may be recovered, it may not be recovered. So it's a good habit to time. It does an auto saving also, but time to time have a habit of saving your workbooks. So let's go back. So we have inserted a column, deleted a column. Now let's learn how to hide a column. And what would be the reason that I would want to hide a column? Why do you think we need to hide a column? Hiding a column means it exists. I'm not deleting it. I don't want the data to disappear. All right, so why do we need to hide anything in our tables? Because a lot of time it may happen that I have multiple tables. It may be that few columns of that particular table are irrelevant to be sent as a report to someone, or I may have created few columns in which I'm doing calculations in order to get my final output. But when I'm putting it in a report, when I'm sending to someone, it makes no sense to send that helper column. So we can hide our columns. So, but you can't hide a set of values in a table. When you hide, it is going to be the whole column gets hidden or the whole row gets hidden. So how do you hide? The very same process as insert and delete. We are going to select a column, right click. At the bottom, you will see the word hide. So once you click on it, it has hidden the column. Now you can see it's A, B, C, D, and F. So E is missing. In order to get it back, we're going to select the two cells or the two columns between which I have a hidden column, right click and unhide. Simple. Click on a column or a row, right click and hide it. And to unhide it, we can select the two columns and right click, unhide it. Now, if there were multiple columns which were hidden, let's say this column is also hidden, this column is also hidden, and I want to unhide both of them together, then you can also select the sheet that we spoke about, right click, and then again, if you do a unhide, you will see all the hidden columns will be unhidden at the same time. So selecting, just select the row number, select the entire row, right click and select hide. So I hope this session was fruitful.